This is a clouds weather alert.
Good Monday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center at 4:33 for a severe thunderstorm warning in play for parts of Berrien County until about 5:15. Looking in south central Georgia right now. You see that yellow box there on the screen. That's where the concern is. We're really starting to see this storm intensify here, even since the warning's been issued here less than 10 minutes ago. Things are really seemingly on an uptick here. So we need to go ahead and go on over right now to our zoomed in radar view of this. You can see here it's a pretty rural area, but we're really getting a hail signature to evolve now. South of Enigma, northwest of Nashville here in Georgia. That's what we're tracking in here within our covered area. As bad as you can see, we had 1-inch hail indications on our software that kind of sometimes does overdo it a little bit, but now it has gone up. It's showing closer to 2 inch. I don't think it's quite that high. This overdoes it some, but still to see some of those blacks now soften in our reflectivity here on the Doppler radar is a cause for concern. And in fact, as I mentioned that now, the Weather Service just upped the hail threat here on this warning from 1 inch in diameter to 1.5 inches in diameter. So we're talking about ping pong ball size hail now, a possibility here in parts of Berrien County. The hail core really increasing. So that can start to do some damage now to vehicles. So we got to keep that in mind now. This is more of an enhanced severe thunderstorm warning per se. Hadn't gone up the 3-category list yet. There's 3 different levels of severe thunderstorm warnings. The base severe thunderstorm warning is still at that right now. But if the hail size gets much bigger, it would be considered a considerable threat, and then maybe even a destructive threat here if this were to get to even larger hail. That probably wouldn't happen. The destructive tag in here is rare for this area for sure, but still, nonetheless, something to keep in mind here. We just have to be monitoring this here right now because that hail is really intensifying. It seems like that threat is the hail core around Vickers Church Road over toward County Road 125. This will be crossing over there. It looks like US 129 in short order. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning now for parts of Berrien County, Georgia. Included in this warning are the communities of Enigma. That's one of them. Another is Glory. So just so you guys know what we're talking here, we're talking about areas there about 9 miles north of Nashville, moving east at about 35 miles an hour. So as I zoom on in here, you can get a little bit better look at the geography even here in this area. This is southeast of Tifton. So that's where we're kind of at there. You guys may know about Tifton, even if you're not living in our Georgia counties right now. You guys might go through there once in a while as you're headed to Atlanta or something like that on I-75. And of course, we cover that area there. A little bit of Tift County there. A little bit of it looks like here parts of even areas in the word Cook County. We're under this just for a moment, but those are just smaller slivers, and they've been taken out quickly as this has moved on there and kind of become a little bit more defined even. So let's go ahead and see our coverage map. Again, we're talking about Berrien County in Georgia. I know we're in Bradford County, Florida, but we cover 62 counties. We just try to emphasize that here so people don't kind of get confused because things have been still pretty nice in North Florida, but hot. I mean, it's been very warm. We just got word from the Weather Service in Jacksonville that Jacksonville has just reached their first 90-degree reading here in 2023. The average first date is April 29th, so about a month early here. We just got that in here. Literally, meteorologist Jason Hess here from the National Weather Service in Jacksonville just telling us about that information out of Duval County there, the first 90-degree day, and that's helping that energy, that instability is helping to fuel this threat. So keep that in mind as we're looking at this here right near. It looks like Nayville Enigma Road. This could be pretty significant hail over toward even Griffin Whitley Road as well. We just got a new warning in the east. I'll see that in a moment. State Route 11 in there, about to cross that, Georgia 11, and then you see our new warning now for parts of Atkinson County. You see by the office in Jacksonville. They've only got quarter-size hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts for now, but We'll see if the threat becomes a little more defined even, or we start to get reports, then they'll upgrade that warning, I would think, as we're talking about Pearson and Willacoochee here in the potential threat zone as we look from the Tallahassee County warning area to the Jacksonville County warning area. So this has become a pretty nasty hail situation pretty quickly. We were talking about this area earlier on. We cut in for the storm in southwest Georgia that fell apart quicker. This one's not falling apart. It is getting nastier and nastier, more of a significant threat here for some of our viewers. A pretty rural zone, but still, for some of our viewers, potentially, you guys could get impacted by this if you're in parts of Atkinson or Berrien counties in South Georgia. So here's our hail tracker. So it hailed about 1.5 inches in diameter, 1.57. That sometimes it's things a little bit more conservatively. So get a hail size that big here on that is a pretty big deal. We saw some of this on Saturday in our area. For sure. We had some of those reports even coming on out after the fact from some of these storms just across the southeast in general here. Some pretty large hail being reported. But that's, I mean, moments ago we had hail a little bit smaller than this. That's 1.57. Scan before that here, that was about the same, but before that 1.22 inches in diameter. So this is strengthening. This is having some upscale growth with it right now. In fact, I know we were going to get really into the meteorology of things right now with our ZDR product, but let's go ahead and look at our upscale growth here. This is something you guys don't see on the air too much, but it shows you when a storm is trying to grow upward here. And you can see that here as this is moving closer toward Willacoochee. That's actually out ahead. So that could be something that is interesting there. And that maybe we start to see some more formation in front that might actually, in some ways, have a potential to weaken the backside. But as I say that, you really see that it's growing upward quickly here. I know I learned this from Grant Dade there in southeast Missouri. Using this product on the air, something that can be helpful to determine if you're seeing a storm grow upward here. In its overall strength and its overall intensity here. And that purple is really telling the story right now that we really have this storm trying to get its act together as they go between some of our other products. The winds, they don't look all that impressive, but I know we've had all these storms hanging around South Georgia and Georgia in general here on and off for days, and that can sometimes just be this overall environment can be capable of producing some pretty big hail. This product's going over 3-inch hail now, which hopefully is not occurring, but this hope does it some. I want to check our other product again because it's the one that does a little bit better job. It actually uses an algorithm here to really interpret things a little bit better, and it's actually dropped it a little to 1.38 inches here at this point, but that still can cause a little bit of damage here, as we were just getting word before we came on that the severe thunderstorm watch was extended by both the Jacksonville and the Tallahassee offices. I know we hadn't seen much earlier, but this storm is the storm of the day, no doubt, here within our covered area. By the way, we had a storm really early this morning. We had to come on for in Alabama in toward some of those regions because it seemed like we had a situation that really come together there. It really came together toward Macon County in that state where we had around Millstead, Alabama, and you have 2 tornadoes according to the office in Birmingham. So pretty significant there this morning. But you can see right now this severe thunderstorm watch in play in the pink areas now does include Waycross, for instance. So even some of those counties further south there and south central Georgia being included as well. They'll batten this up a little bit. It'll take a minute, but you see some of them, and there were even some more added right before this. You can see those added. So just kind of going back and forth with this watch and play, at least till 6, but we could even see maybe a little bit more of an extension on that later on. So something to keep an eye on here for sure. After this blue area, the mesoscale discussing. Storm Prediction Center was talking about this. They did not expect another watch needed here at this point, but we'll just continue to monitor things here in the Weather Center. As again, the hail size is of some concern here. The wind didn't look all that impressive on our modes here, but it could still be damaging possibly here. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see there what's going on with this. So you're seeing these wind values 30, 40 miles an hour, not that far from the radar, but again, the hail size. Again, I don't think at 3 inches this is showing, though, that there's a 100% chance that we have severe hail with this, and a 100% chance that we have any hail at all here. So that's kind of the storyline right now as this moves out here and over the next little bit of Berrien County and into toward Atkinson County. So again, we just have to be really careful here. You have quite a bit of lightning here as we're looking towards some of these areas. Again, looking south of Alapaha right now, southeast of Enigma, north of Nashville, so southwest of Willacoochee. So this is where we're at right now with the geography of things. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning in play for parts of Berrien until 5:15, but also parts of Atkinson until 5:15 as well. Jacksonville office issues stuff for Atkinson. Berrien County is issued by the Tallahassee office there. So just, again, that's why there's two different warnings here. They didn't just combine things. They have to do them separate because there's different meteorologists that are responsible for different areas. But shear correlation coefficient, that tells me here that we have some hail with this storm, because that's not going to be like tornado debris or something. That matches up perfectly, though, with our hail products really that are so on and up here. I do notice there's a little bit of maybe inflow here on the southern end. That's not necessarily any type of rotation, but this is becoming like a supercellular type of storm on that southern end. It's really kind of maybe tapping into the characteristics south of it here to be able to get that together. There is some stuff starting to form a little bit maybe on a boundary to the south, which maybe could cut it off, but instead it may still be able to get enough of the accent here in on the southeastern side to be able to be prominent in its overall intensity and to be able to really be problematic, as we're now getting word now, in fact, that they're going to go ahead and increase now the potential of damage to a considerable threat now in Atkinson County. That's now a 2 out of 3 on that severe thunderstorm warning criteria. So just so you guys kind of know that here, just kind of upping the ante here a little bit with that toward Atkinson County. So again, I'm just gonna keep watching this here in the Weather Center. I'm checking some things. If you hear me type in the background, I have to do this from time to time here on our other sources to get the latest information. So just want to let you guys know what I'm doing here. It's a one-man band, so we have to look at different things like power outage numbers and stuff in that realm here when we're off camera with you and we're at our other source to be able to kind of look at some of that. So again, let me go ahead and go to our other mode, because it now shows this orange box on the screen. I have it in our mode that kind of delineates our different types of severe thunderstorm warnings. This is a more significant severe thunderstorm. And you see our product now going over 2 inches. Our hail product now that generally does a good job with this. It doesn't really overestimate things. It's really on the right side of these numbers generally. It's now showing 2-inch hail. And that 2-inch hail is about, it probably had actually crossed U.S. Highway 129 already. It has probably already crossed that. And there you go. You get the update now. They're now bringing that back down to 1.54 as the latest update comes in. But they've now also went considerable at the Tallahassee office. They're saying this is capable of producing considerable damage here. We don't get these too often in this part of the country. So a golf ball size hail there, a possibility both according to the meteorologist in Jacksonville watching this storm for Atkinson County and the meteorologist in Tallahassee watching this storm for Berrien County here in the Peach State in South Georgia. So this storm is producing large hail, so seek shelter now inside a sturdy structure and stay away from windows. When you start to get a golf ball size hail, folks, that's when you can start to maybe even have some injuries here, minor injuries, especially children or the elderly could be even a little more vulnerable here in this type of situation when we start to get hail a little bit bigger like this. Hopefully, just if they're seeking shelter, they'll probably be okay, but you just got to be really careful here with this electrical energy around too. But again, we have a situation right now that's starting to look a little bit nastier here. Golf ball size hail, a possibility in South Georgia. That's why we're with you guys right now. That's why we have that logo red, just in case here for these type of situations in place. So considerable hail damage now could be occurring here in South Georgia. Real quick, while we're looking at things, I do want to say, you guys, a little bit broader view here of the radar. You don't see anything up toward the area there south of Atlanta, north of Macon with the rain, but there is a flash flood emergency continuing there way out of our area, but it's worth noting West Central Berrien County, there's been concerns about a dam break there, and they were urging earlier today people to really seek higher ground immediately because of the Heads Creek Reservoir that there, in fact, having some problems. Imminent failure was a potential there. So that's kind of the word out of the office in Peachtree City. That's where you're looking up there, that flash flood emergency. That's what this box is indicating, west of Griffin, Georgia. I just want to let you guys know about that while we were on. A lot of different things going on. Another big drought. We're talking about it here later in the week more, but it's looking like on Friday here, especially a significant threat of severe weather around St. Louis, Missouri, and areas in between, really. That'll be something we're looking at later on, but you can look at that map right now, cloudweather.com/severe. If you scroll down, it says that the outlook stays 4 through 8. There's still a lot of adjustments that could be made to that. I know day 4 would be sowing stuff out to the west, but on day 5, that's when we're going to be seeing maybe even a more significant threat here. I know you already had all those fatalities out toward areas in Mississippi, for instance, back Friday night. Such a fateful situation there, so tragic. Just you hate seeing stuff like that, but this is not to that degree by any stretch. We're not really seeing a tornado threat here at this point. Can't completely rule one out here, but right now we're talking about a hail potential of about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 in diameter here, north of Nashville, Georgia. This is where we're at right now. I'll be moving in toward parts of Atkinson County here pretty soon. I know it's rural Georgia here, but still, you gotta be careful because I mean, we had a hail indicated maybe 2 inches. I'll go ahead and take this off. A couple things just for a minute. If there's any homes in here, when it's safe, it might be interesting to hear the reports from that area, just for the fact of what type of damage might have occurred. Because if you get hail to 2 inches, that's enough to start to really cause some damage there to some of the more vulnerable type of structures there. I mean, we don't talk about hail around here too much. Hopefully not enough to really start getting windows broken or anything like that, but you're starting to at least think about that potential when you talk about these hail sizes. Hopefully not quite that much, and there's always a chance. I've noticed this before in our Florida counties, for instance, with some of these events, our hail sizes look really big on our radar products, but what ends up happening here instead with the hail potential, instead of having the big hails, we have a bunch of smaller hail sometimes too. So that's something to keep in mind if we're not getting the bigger hail. I'll be curious to see exactly what type of reports we're getting out of this area. If this were to hang together, we could be watching toward Millwood or even Waycross here, somewhere in that proximity. It looks like we're getting easterly movement generally, but maybe a little bit of a southerly component here. As I'm going to check some more things behind the scenes right now on other sources. So, again, if you hear me, I kind of click on my mouse here or tapping the keyboard on our other system. I know it can be a little bit loud sometimes here. One of our new sources here. I just want to let you guys know what we're doing. So, I know they're talking about this here, though. How this is kind of just a super sailor type of storm. It has that look to it here for sure in parts of southern Georgia. So again, just be aware of that. You do not want to get caught off guard here in these type of situations. I don't see any like damage reports in yet, but it'd probably take a little bit to get that out of here because it's a sparsely populated area in southern Georgia that we're dealing with right now. So again, just continuing to pay attention here. I'll go ahead and move the map over a little more so you can see where Albany is in really perspective to these areas off toward the east. I know Georgia right now, 6,000 or so customers in the dark. We do have about 182 out in terms of customers in Ben Hill County, about 405 customers without electricity in Irwin County toward areas there like Atkinson. So far we don't have any, but that could change as the reports come in. Berrien County, none either, but again, that's where it's happening now, so those reports will be interesting to see here over the next little bit. So again, it's a thunderstorm warning situation for at least another 23 minutes here for parts of Atkinson and Berrien counties in South Georgia. It looks like our hail product has gone down a little bit now with this, which in just part of the country you generally don't see hail producers hang around too significantly for too long, and this is now going more toward that inside. It still could be interesting, but would be a little bit less damaging possibly. So that's something to keep an eye on here for sure as the next little bit progresses. So continue to watch all of our different numbers here on our system. I know tomorrow we'll be watching more toward the south, maybe some type of threat here of some severe weather coming into play, more so into some of the North Florida counties. I know I'm going to pull up our risk areas here. Just so you guys know what we're dealing with. I think it's important to say this since we're on the air right now. You guys will have an idea maybe what to expect here. So our risk here, the yellow is in Georgia really, but the slight risk here, we'll be watching that. That marginal risk, though, the 1 out of 5 is the green, and that does extend a little bit into toward North Florida. But as we look ahead toward your day 2, that gets further down toward areas like Stark. Finally, I know, unfortunate, but you've kind of it's been fortunate that you've held off on the storms, but unfortunate here that you have to get into them. Though if you need to rain, you might welcome it. But we have been fortunate with the nice weather, but unfortunately things will be about to change here. As we look, we've been talking about the weather from where we're at for days really, and we haven't seen anything around here as expected. But again, this storminess is eventually going to come on through here a little bit cooler in the middle of the week before we have warming air, warming temperatures here once again as we look later in the timeline. So just to give you guys a little bit of an expectation on that, just your late day 1, day 2 outlooks there from the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Now this is outside of our area. This is a rogue storm. I'm going to look at the rotation on it if there is any. Can't really see it from here. I probably have to switch radars, but that storm seems like it could try to rotate a little bit. It just is showing pea-sized hail, 40-mile-an-hour wind potential just there south of Jessup toward right now outside of our area. But this storm here, the wind potential hadn't been all that impressive with it here since we've been on the air, but it is showing winds maybe closer to 55 miles an hour if you add the greens and the little bit of red together there. But the potential, according to the Weather Service, is for gusts to 60 in the most extreme cases here. So we'll continue to watch that. But the hail threat's been the bigger story. But I mean, our product, which this is going to overestimate, but it was showing 3-inch hail. I mean, when I say 3 inches, I didn't even want to kind of read off. Yeah, it actually said 3.5 inches. There's what that 3 indicated once you got into the actual details. It's not that big. That's not what we were seeing there. It's just our system likes to read that a little bit big, this one, but our other system was reading still 2 inches, which, again, it's just the way our software is with the hail. Sometimes it hits things a little bit differently than you would like it to on this source, but that's kind of just the nature of some of the stuff. It's a little bit harder to interpret hail sizes through one view versus our other view here, which it really does more analysis here on the hail. So it's a little delayed sometimes, but it's still about an inch on here. The other product had it less than that. We may be getting some interference here from other accent. I want to go ahead and loop it on our other source. I'll get this ready for you here at home. I feel like maybe that stuff to the south is starting to kind of interfere. If anything, I do see a boundary came on from this, so that can cause some different things here. Can this be an indication too that of just the overall nature of the setup here, where we could end up getting some ultimate decaying here of the accent? So again, that'll be something to say here in just a second. I know I've switched radars, so it's going to skip around a little on you guys on this loop, so just bear with it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll join it in the loop here now, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. If you look to the south, some different things. That boundary is kind of interesting, and then stuff to the south there forming 2. A little bit more predominantly, maybe kind of playing a role here or the symptom of that. So again, I just wanted to kind of touch on the radar meteorology of things here in the Weather Center. So again, just going ahead and go back to the live view right now. You can see what is going on here right now as we look toward Giddens Road, over toward Little Exhume Road, even Garrett Road. You kind of get the idea. This is looking a lot weaker here, and that's what they're saying in the chat session now. Meteorologists with the office in Tallahassee saying the hail core appears to be coming down on the Berrien County storm, but you could still see some large hail as it moves into Atkinson County, which is covered by the National Weather Service, in Jacksonville, of course, as we've alluded to. So again, just so you guys know what's going on here this afternoon, we just trying to give you guys the heads up here on this potential as it moves into maybe some of your neighborhoods here as we continue to effort information here into the Weather Center. So again, that's what we're doing right now here at 4:57 on this Monday. You can see here this track, a little bit of that southerly component, but mainly eastern with the movement here. I know last night we had some stuff really trying to go to the north with the way the boundary was, but now kind of seeing that put to the south. It's been a tug of war per se here in the meteorology maps as we look back, and we're going to start to have more of that push to the south tomorrow though, which will get more of a Florida counties involved here. So just so you guys know, that's what we're going to anticipate. But right now, the latest information is there's a slight weakening trend in the severe storm entering Atkinson County. So they've updated it now back to 1 inch hail. So now a base severe thunderstorm instead of that more considerable threat here. So just again trying to emphasize that here. And I want to look at some other things at this point. I think it's kind of important to go over some of our details here in terms of that forecast for tomorrow, because I know things like FSU baseball or Gator baseball, if you want to call it that as well, taking place in Jacksonville. That big rivalry matchup on the diamond is scheduled for tomorrow evening, and the weather may play a role in that. It could get it pushed, it could get it delayed. We'll just have to wait and see. So I know we're looking at all of our model guidance here in the Weather Center. So in fact, let's see here, where do I want to go with this, because I have it in our other mode, which unfortunately makes it a little tougher for our model guidance to come on up here. When I have it on our base warning mode source, you're able to kind of get that model guidance up a little bit easier. I wanted to try to pop that up here, but just so you know, I'll go ahead and get that other source here up for you guys. So bear with me as I do that, because I think that's kind of important to walk you through hour by hour of what could happen here, not what will happen. The models have had a tough time. I mean, forecasts have been messed up here from time to time all over the place, but I know it's just giving you guys an idea of what could happen now that it seems to be coming down in intensity. Of course, we'll still have to watch tonight for some of this storminess here in play for sure, but as we look ahead in toward that Tuesday there, that Tuesday 3/28, March 28th, we just kind of want to see what could happen with that forecast. So I'm going to go ahead and put up our 18Z HRRR model here, just so you guys kind of know what we're talking about. So we'll advance that out to about 22Z here, and that's going to be about 6 o'clock or so in that timeline. Let's go ahead and switch sources right now. As we go ahead and continue along in this coverage, because this will be kind of giving you guys an indication here of what to expect as we look ahead in the next hour of what could end up happening. Of course, the models aren't always right, but this is what the model is showing an hour from now potentially taking place. So HRRR 18Z run as we walk you through it here on this Monday afternoon, and now getting more into those Monday evening hours. So that's kind of the storyline here at this present time. Again, just to re-emphasize, and this is the forecast model as we go ahead now and show you here 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We'll see how things hold together. Now, again, the models have had a really tough time with this. But let's get you out to about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, maybe some storms, maybe a storm. I'm not expecting widespread severe weather. I know we have that thunderstorm watch in play, but that is kind of just there because we've had that potential just in and around the last few days, on and off, and it's something that I just want you to be aware of, that potential still exists to some degree, but it's not an overwhelming one, I don't think. It's not something that we're going to have to be on for like we were on Saturday, I would not believe, for hours and hours. I know Saturday was a bit of a surprise we were on for that long. Those rogue storms just hanging together, causing a lot of damage. A lot of damage reports came out of Saturday's acts, and several counties having different reports there of wind damage and or hail. So just interesting to see that. But as we go ahead and look here, you see things maybe kind of becoming a little more weaker here later on. But then you see some development maybe out toward the west. We'll have to watch this, make sure nothing gets crazy in Liberty County or in the Big Bend. But then as you get towards sunrise, you see some storms there on Tallahassee. If you look in the corner, by the way, there's a little indicator there about 13Z on that Tuesday. That's equivalent to 9 a.m. I know it's a little confusing with those times, but just so you guys kind of know at home, what we're doing here is we continue to effort information behind the scenes here in the Weather Center. It's just always interesting to see exactly what's going on here in these type of circumstances, because that way you guys have an idea here of the overall genesis of things and the overall potential movement. So again, you see 9 a.m. tomorrow. This is what radar could kind of look like. It's not going to be perfect, but 9 a.m. tomorrow, then 10 a.m. I know, I feel like, again, if you're watching from North Florida, you kind of wonder when is it going to come up, and he's been talking about it for days here. It's finally going to be here to some degree tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to be overwhelming by any stretch, but this is 10 a.m. here. For a few folks, it could be pretty nasty, though. 11 a.m., noon, 1, 2 o'clock there to kind of advance it further. Then we get out even a little bit longer in the timeline now. I'll go ahead and go out to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and look at Jacksonville, folks. Timing could be pretty bad for that baseball game, that scheduled baseball game between the Gators and the Seminoles in Jacksonville tomorrow, because that could be about, out of all the days, it's been so quiet toward northeast Florida, and the storminess could hit right during game time, or at least scheduled game time for that accent on the diamond there between the Gators and the Seminoles there in the college baseball world. This is what future casters say, our forecast model, our HRRR is showing for 7 p.m. tomorrow. Just so you guys know here, 7 p.m. tomorrow is what could be showing up on the radar. That's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So I'll scrub back real quick. Again, this stuff here, it looks like it could be pretty strong. I mean, that's 6 o'clock. I'm not saying it'll be severe, but it could be. Definitely could have some warnings out for this stuff around 7 o'clock, maybe tomorrow. There, as we look at that forecast model. So just trying to give you guys a glimpse into the future here as we look ahead in toward that timeline of what could happen, because you hear about all these storms in the north. You've heard about the storms. We had tornadoes in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Hopefully we don't have any in Florida, but that chance can't completely be discounted. It's more about damage and winds here at this point, but the rain hadn't even got here, Roy, and this is what the rainfall amounts, as I go a little bit further here, could look like through about 2 to 8 o'clock time frame, maybe an inch or so in Jacksonville, maybe a half inch towards dark, but the models are going to shift around. These numbers could shift to different locations here as we look ahead into toward the timeline. So this is our forecast rainfall there. The purple is indicative, Roy, over an inch of rain as we get there, maybe even, Roy, closer to an inch and a half when you get into where those purples. So that's the forecast there as we look ahead. For now, let's go ahead and go back on over toward our other modes here. I'll go ahead and see our information, our warning information. It looks like they've actually just dropped the other box toward the west now. So that's the storyline here. This warning still goes to 5:15, but I'm not even seeing as much in our hail indicator at this point in terms of severe hail, much less the wind threat. There is a little bit of, look, a little weak rotation there on that last scan to back that up. There is a little bit of something there, but it's nothing overwhelming. At this point, I would think they'd probably just have an advisory in play as we look further downstream, but we'll continue to watch it, obviously, to make sure things don't change on here on us, because we don't want you caught off guard. But let's go back over now. I want to see our Georgia focus map per se. It's still going to say some of Florida, but it's focused a little bit better in Georgia. You can see what we're talking about right now here. The one warning in play, and then as we get further out toward the west here, southwest Georgia, there's some lighting. Nothing severe, though, right now around Donaldsonville and Seminole County. We had a warning earlier. Just keep an eye on things. Again, no warnings here at the present time out that way. There's a bit thunderstorm watch still in the proximity. And of course, we had all that damage there, destruction from Hurricane Michael now. As we go back in the timeline, there with Hurricane Michael. It's been about 4.5 years now, but there's still always little things that maybe damage here or there that could be more vulnerable, more susceptible to the nastier conditions. Speaking of hurricane anniversaries, we're about on that 6-month anniversary of Hurricane Ian already towards Southwest Florida, if you can believe that. So that's something that's worth noting here in the meteorology world as we're looking at all of that. So again, just kind of giving you guys a heads up there in terms of different things that are taking place there on that weather calendar. Unfortunately, we missed that storm, and none of these storms ever happened, but we have to talk about them here as how big of a deal they were. I mean, and just emphasize that the cleanup down there in Southwest Florida is still ongoing as people are trying to stay Southwest Florida strong toward areas like Fort Myers and those areas impacted by Ian. And then, of course, we had Nicole a little bit later there, still having some impacts, taking advantage of some of those vulnerabilities left behind on the East Coast, especially from Ian. So again, just continuing to watch here this Doppler radar view right now. I know, looking at some of our different information here. There's your temperatures. You can see here temperatures in the 60s toward Albany, a little bit cooler there in Berrien County. Looking though toward the south 80s, we alluded to 90 degrees there at Jacksonville International Airport on this Monday. The first 90-degree reading here, 2023 there. And we'll have many more to come for sure over a month or so early from what the averages would say, a month or so departure from that. So hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. You just never know. But we'll continue to watch, obviously, as we look ahead later on in the timeline. As the periods go on. I mean, you can see these 90s really predominant here as we look toward areas in Central Florida. 91 right now at Plant City, 91 Orlando, 91 Titusville, 91 in Sebring. So just giving you guys an idea of what's going on there. You can see some more 90s there. If you look closely there toward Clewiston and Okeechobee County Airport. So these are some warm temperatures here on play for sure. Just continuing here to look at our maps. You can see even 80s out here. Some people still without power from the tornadoes coming on through there Friday night. Thoughts and prayers to everybody impacted. And you can just see here we're still doing with some temperatures that are kind of getting on the warm side per se there, which can be problematic. We've seen this in other patterns before. As we look here, we're now being told to expire in this severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll be wrapping things up here pretty soon unless something else catches our eye here in the next few seconds. But again, always when you have power outages, you don't want temperatures warming up too much. I mean, 70s are one thing versus 80s, but still, I mean, the overall patterns here sometimes can play a role here and people being impacted. By the way, ignore that 100 in Starkville. There's an issue with that sensor, no doubt. I mean, that's not the right number there in Starkville. But as we go ahead and look there, you can see these numbers here again, getting pretty warm here for this time of year in the month of March, even if that's not necessarily excessive like we're really starting to see down toward areas in Florida already here. I mean, look at the dew point values, some of these in the 60s here. So just kind of giving you guys an idea of that. Of course, we have some of that thunderstorm activity in Georgia. So that's what we're looking at there with some of our different information or details, energy values here around your supercell composite values, your tornado parameters there. They're not overwhelming necessarily, but just the interesting nature of them here can play a role in some things. So just interesting to keep in mind here from a meteorological perspective. So, because it means some stuff to me here in the Weather Center. It's kind of hard to convey that to the viewer, but in an understandable fashion anyway. But look at some of our infrared satellite guidance. You can see the coral cloud tops here. We'll now go to the visible guidance here, and you can see here is in North Florida. It's sunny. I'm looking there out my window. It's sunny here right now in North Florida, South Georgia. Different story. In some areas, they see areas kind of covered in that cloud cover for sure. And you even see where we've had the severe weather. These clouds, if you look real closely, have a little bit of an easier to see look on them, a little bit more put together per se. As I zoom on in a bit, you can see really making that out there. Some of that thunderstorm activity here, some of these storms and the storm activity. So always interesting to touch on stuff. So this thunderstorm watch and play for the next little bit in South Georgia. So we'll continue to watch things but no warnings in play anymore. They're expiring that warning technically. For Atkinson, it would still go to 5:15. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Let me just double check, make sure we don't have anything popping out at us real quick. In southwest Georgia, I know these storms have really come up and come down in strength quickly here over the last few days, with the exception, really, of what happened Saturday afternoon. We had those storms, really just those couple rogue storms hanging together and caused issues for hours. So a weird pattern per se. This with the boundary here. I mean, this overall pattern promotes that, though. It can promote flooding like what we had toward areas there further in Georgia yesterday and this morning even. Even just, I mean, looking at the timeline here, it's always interesting to see that. But not seeing too much in the storms out there towards Seminole County that would suggest severe weather. I'm looking off a further radar, but still, it's just kind of interesting not to see too much there at this point. Doesn't mean we don't need to watch them, but when storms are a little bit closer together, we mentioned this to you yesterday, and it kind of generally prohibited that tornado threat until that one storm got discreet last night. But when they're closer together like this, that prohibits more storms to form that are in a more severe to tornadic range sometimes. I mean, that one storm was kind of out ahead there toward Atkinson and Berrien, but now it seems like it's kind of getting caught up a little bit. As we'll go ahead and go back a little, you can kind of see what I'm saying as we kind of look ahead. It was kind of there a little bit more in a fashion to be more well defined per se. As we'll look at another thing here, the water vapor, kind of be interesting to see you guys as well. You can kind of see some of our different things with that. Just kind of giving you a look at the moisture in the upper levels here. That's another thing that plays a role in these weather scenarios. So again, I think that'll pretty much do it for now, since that warning is being expired on out. But just thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm seeing if there's any questions from the viewers. I don't see anything right now, but of course we'll try to do our best to answer them. If there's questions here, we'll be back if necessary later on this evening, tonight, tomorrow. If it's necessary, we'll be back with you guys. We just got an advisor now for Coffee, Atkinson, and we're till 6 o'clock for the strong, but no longer severe thunderstorm activity. So I'll read that off to you real quick here. And it looks like about 5:14, the operator is tracking a strong thunderstorm near Pearson, moving east at 25 miles an hour. Winds around 40 miles an hour, and pea-sized hail possible. Pearson, Millwood, Bickley, and Axon under that, with the watch in play till 6 o'clock. So that's what we're kind of looking at here in the Weather Center. If we need to be back with you, we will. But otherwise, just follow us here on our different platforms. You have some different things you can go to. Maybe you have a preference for YouTube. YouTube there at Clouds Weather. Just type in youtube.com/@cloudsweather, and you can subscribe now for the latest information from me in terms of those live streams. That's free, so you don't have to pay anything there. It doesn't cost anything to show your support. But then there's other outlets as well, like Twitch there, Cloud Weather, Twitter at Casey Cloud, or excuse me, I always mess this up, but Twitter at Cloud Casey there. We have so many different pages, but and then you have the auto alert account there as well at Cloud_WX on Twitter too. That gives you information on different warnings as they come out from the Tallahassee or Jacksonville offices. Facebook, KC Cloud WX, and Cloud Weather. Some more places to go for the latest weather information. And then cloudweather.com has all those different links available. You have interactive radar on that radar tab as well. So just giving you all the different resources you need here to protect you, your friends, and your family here as we watch these dangerous situations. Of course, you can also follow NWS Tornado on Twitter for the latest information on any tornado warnings that pop up in the country. And then you have at the National Weather Service Jacksonville and at National Weather Service Tallahassee Twitter handles as well to follow for some of the different information coming out from them as well as you watch different things develop. I do see a little bit of scattered action toward Leon County right now. We'll watch to see since those storms are out ahead a little bit. But right now, nothing too robust with them. But we'll be watching, we'll be tracking.